All right, good evening, everyone. It's another weekend of class. Welcome back to class. Can I be heard?
Yes, we
Good
can hear you,
evening.
Mariam. Good evening.
Okay, thank you very much. It's another weekend of class, and it promises to be awesome as always. So, but before we go join the class, before we start the class, rather, this is 5 o'clock. We're going to give 5 minutes for everybody to join the class. All party escorts should please inform their people to join the class. We are only 49 here, and that's not a good number. So, by 5:05, we are going to start properly. Thank you very much. All right, so it's 5:05. Um, we're still we're still like 87, and that's actually not a very good number. Today we'll be discussing tax, obviously, and the role that tax play in governance. So, But before we start, I would like us to have like a conversation. It's almost the end of the cohort. So I don't know if anybody would like to share what they've learned so far, how the experience has been before we start the class. So if anybody, you can just raise your hands and I would unmute you to speak. Or you can share experience about your, okay, I see one hand up. Um, Wisdom, I've asked you to unmute. You can speak now.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
So far, I've I've learned a lot about politicking, and although I study politics, but I've not really practiced in the true sense of it. So ECN has given us the opportunity to politic, especially when we have elections that our party has to contest with another party. We may have to lobby, form alliances, and all that. So I thank ECN for this opportunity, and we are looking forward to the presidential elections where we're also carrying with what we're learning. So thank the ED and the team for what they are doing.
All right. Thank you very much, Wisdom. It's nice to hear from a political science student speak about the college. Thank you very much. So I'm going to unmute Steven. You can share your thoughts.
All right, good evening, ma. And good evening,
Yeah, good
everybody
evening.
over there. So much impressed about this course. I've learned a lot of things. Although the way I see politics is different from the way I've heard about it now. For what I've learned so far from this, I'll be able to understand what politics is all about. And there's something that I will not well know to people, but during this course, so many things that be of food and I've learned a lot. I so much appreciate this institution for this wonderful lectures and how they are trying to shape the mindset of citizens. I believe with little of us that are inside this program or this, let's say this course, by the time election is coming and the next 2027, I hope we'll be able to use what we learn here to reshape our mind and we understand what politics is all about. Thank you so much. Long live cohort 2018.
Thank
2018,
you.
sorry. Thank
Thank you very much. Okay. Um, that's very nice. I'd like to hear from Timothy as well. I've asked you to unmute.
Okay, thank you very much. Good evening. Sincere. This is
Good
Timothy
evening.
Toro from the APC, the chairperson of the APC. We sincerely appreciate you all for such a wonderful opportunity to learn. It has been a very, very wonderful opportunity. I must say that this is one of the best learning experience for me. It's something that you can't buy, because if we are to pay back with the price alone of all these materials, the time, the sacrifices that the ED and his team have put in to shape the minds of every one of us politically, I will tell you that we can't even pay up everything. But I believe that as life goes on, by the grace of God, we'll continue to do in the best possible way we can to pay back in our best capacity. And I'm wishing the Electoral College of Nigeria all the very best, and we look forward to bigger things together by the grace of God. God bless you all. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I would like to hear what like specific things, if there's anything that you would not forget, even if you forget everything. I want to hear one thing that somebody would not forget about the college. Maybe it's a quote, it's a class, or something, an experience. I would love for somebody to share that. So I've asked Chinonso to mute. You can speak now.
Thank you so much. I was saying me. Yes. One thing I would never forget is I was like, me, just me. One thing I would never forget, first of all, how passionate everybody was. But this is such a real life scenario. I think one thing I would never forget is how detailed, like because one of the things I've been so critical about Nigeria is that, I was always saying, no, like these politicians, and they never have a manifesto, they never have a plan. But seeing the process that you actually have a plan, that means you need to actually publish it. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, so if there's one thing I'll never forget is the behind the scenes of what it takes to make a plan to get to office. Because the whole time, from the public view, exactly, yeah, from the public view, it seems like they don't have a plan, because the only the only manifesto I've seen in all of politics that has been made public was Benjamin Kalu, our deputy speaker. But all other manifestos I've never seen so publicly published as his. So that's one thing I'll never forget for this experience. So thank you so much for calling me.
Yeah, thank you very much, So that was a lovely contribution, and beautiful voice you have there. So thank you very much for contributing. I think we should take one more before the class officially starts, so we can proceed. So Jibril, I've asked you to unmute.
All right, thank you for the opportunity to be a part of this class. I would like to say it has been wonderful so far and very insightful, educative, and of course informative. In as much as I've had a little experience about politicking because I've been participated in political affairs of the country for at least about a decade now, I would say that this class or this college is actually a perfect simulation of how politics works. And I want to say kudos to the ED and the team and every other person that make this possible. In fact, I like his stand where his position on issue that when you come to do something, you be serious about it and make sure you do it the way it's supposed to be done. He doesn't tolerate any nonsense. So I like that a lot. And I believe that will stick with me for the rest of my life. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much, Jibril. That was a wonderful contribution. I think I'm enjoying this a little too much. So let's just take maybe a few hands. Balaji, I'd like to hear from you. I've asked you to unmute.
Good evening, moderator. Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
First, I would say I am the kind of person who has never been interested in the politics whatsoever. But I'm so fortunate that the first encounter I'm having is through this vehicle. And I feel so blessed and so lucky. And what I would actually say is just that this course has actually changed my school of thought, my mindset, in the sense that a lot of stuff are out there that we actually believe in and are being clouded by our emotions. In the sense that we have many things in the streets that we do believe are morally based, but are not even factual enough. We don't have evidences to prove them. So through this course, I've learned not to actually decide or make decisions or to think just with my emotions, but to always have facts. And I think I've actually put that in practice already, and it has brought me much closer to politics. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you so much, Balaji. That is so nice. It's very important not to think with your emotions in politics. Okay. So, Otta Nelson, I've asked you to unmute.
Yeah, good evening, all.
Good evening.
All right. I've actually learned much, and in specific, I was able to be grateful that I was told that instead of writing letters, which I've actually engaged myself in, to the National Assembly, even I had to send to all the members of the Senate without getting any favorable response, because I have actually been advocating for a transparent electoral reforms. I came here to observe that I could go through sending bills, which is what I'm actually working on, trying to understand the structure and the intricacies that has to do with bills. So I believe that with that, someone can get a favorable response, and it's from this cohort I got it. And we look forward to transparent elections, because I was able to discover, and having followed election for a decade plus, that the people have their own responsibility, which is to vote. But after voting, that it can still be thwarted. And that was when they brought in the beavers, very perfect technology, but people took advantage of it. So with the bill, believing if it is heard, we'll get something that is better. And thanks to this cohort. Thank you so very much.
Thank you very much, Nelson, for that. I hope to see one of your bills or probably hear about it soon. So good luck with that. Mohammed, I've asked you to unmute. Can you go ahead now?
Good evening, PCN. Good evening, everybody. Thank you for this opportunity. So I really appreciate it because it means a lot to us. So one thing I still learn from this is the discipline aspect of this course. So it is so fantastic. And then the normal procedure to be followed in election. So we have learned it, and then I will urge all the students so to make sure that we make use of it uh, in the coming election. So and then it should reflect in our society also, and then we should keep on advocating for good governance. So we should make sure that we make use of what we have learned here judiciously. So we should not keep it to ourselves. Let us always be the reason why Nigeria change. So I really appreciate ECN. May God bless the ED and his team and every one of us. Thank you so much. We really appreciate. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much, Mohammed. I think with that, I would stop for now, and then we can proceed with the class. All right. So I said we're going to be discussing understanding the role of tax in governance, and to take us on this is none other than Joe Mijinyawa. So I'll be taking a citation. Kindly listen attentively as I take that. Joe Mijinyawa is a Nigerian born in Zaria. He started schooling in Zaria, Kaduna State, and proceeded to Ilorin, Kwara State later. Later, he studied sociology at ABU, Zaria, and did his NYSC in Enugu State. Joe worked at First Bank of Nigeria Plaza for over 12 years. He's currently an ICANN student member. He's also a member of the Nigerian Institute of Training and Development. Joe is passionate about good governance at every level. He enjoys reading, teaching, and engaging in meaningful conversations. Ladies and gentlemen, our facilitator for today, Joe Mijinyawa. You have the floor, sir.
Thank you so much for that very wonderful introduction. I'm so sorry for the slight delay. It wasn't my fault, but I'm so sorry about that. So this class today is going to be kind of different from what we're used to. I would want to make it a very interactive session. Am I audible?
Yes, you are.
All right. I want to make it a very interactive session whereby we should be able to engage and so that I can understand everybody's perception of what tax means to he or her. So now I just need about 3 people that will tell me what they understand by even the topic, understanding the role of tax in governance. What resonates when you hear that, so that I can get your feelers, I can understand where we're coming from. So Jibril Abdulhamid, please, let's go.
Hello,
All right.
I understand tax to be the major source of government revenue, and so for quality and representative governance, tax processes and policies must be effective and aligned with the broader mandate to drive development, progress, and development.
Thank you. Do I have any other person? Any other one? All right. So can I have like another person who would tell me his or her definition or what they understand by tax itself? Anyone? All right, Daniel, can we hear you? All right, Daniel, you can unmute. Daniel.
Okay. Thank you very much. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you.
I understand by the word tax is a sum of money or resources that is extracted from the total profit generated by an individual or a corporate entity by an authority that provides certain services in order to continue providing those services. Those services might include, but not limited to, security, roads, amenities, defense, and other stuff like that. So those are resources extracted, especially in terms of monetary forms, cash, that the authority takes. In this case, government, in this case of a country, at different levels. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Can I have Victoria, please? Victoria Asaga.
Victoria, you can unmute.
I don't think.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, go ahead.
Good evening. In my understanding, I would say that tax is a very important aspect for governance because it helps in revenue. It helps in funding, healthcare services, funding public goods and service. So it's a key, a vital component in governance. That's what I believe.
Good. Thank you very much. Winifred Chuku, that will be the last person we will take, and then subsequently we'll still be engaging each other.
All right, Winfred, you can unmute.
Yes, thank you very much. For me, tax is actually a compulsory or mandatory charge by a government, and it is usually paid by individuals or business entities. It covers the cost of general governance.
Thank you very much. So with this, I can probably make a conclusion that we might not even need to have this class, if you allow me, because we already know what we're going to. But then we wouldn't leave it at that. We would still have to give you some tips on what you can do differently when you are in that position. So like the three people that spoke about tax, you're all right. There are levies that are taxed on citizens, on their income. It's also taxed on businesses. As you all know, when a business registers is an entity on its own, it will be taxed by the government at different rates depending on what the legislation is saying. Why I'm taking this class in a different format today is because you are all aware that there's a new bill coming up and it's going to take up by 1st of January. So there are a lot of changes to some of these things, which I would not want us to delve into immediately because, of course, it's still going through its teething problems and amendments, or rather not amendments, but how the tax authorities will apply them. So at the end of this module, I would believe that each and every one of us should understand the reason for tax and taxation. We should also know the need for government, why government needs to collect taxes, and then who should collect which tax, so that you will not be assuming wrongly that somebody is supposed to do something. We've had that case in the past where a particular governor was trying to claim rights on collection of VAT and all that. What are the basic principles of a good tax system? And what are the sources of our tax laws in Nigeria? So, like we've all mentioned in our different definitions, it's money that you pay to government. It is a compulsory levy, and it is not paid in return for anything. It's not expected that you pay tax and you expect that, I've paid my tax, so, oh yeah, come and do culvert in front of my house. That's not how it works. Government is a levy charged on each person in the country that is resident in a particular country and does business in that jurisdiction and is expected to pay that levy, whether or not he has anything in return from government. But of course, I'm speaking from this angle that we are all vying for positions. We are all trying to be better people in governance. And so we should understand what tax is supposed to do for us. So I've mentioned one or two definitions, but then we can also take it up from this point that it's a form of levy imposed on all the residents living in, as well as non-residents doing business within a tax jurisdiction. It is a civic and patriotic responsibility of citizens to pay taxes imposed, which also come to the government as income or revenue to finance the provisions of socioeconomic and infrastructural amenities, and also to enhance industrial efficiency. Note, the process of levying and collection of tax from taxpayers is known as taxation. Now, I would also want one or two people to tell us what they understand by governance. To you, what is governance? What does governance speak to? Anyone, please? Can I ask, okay, Timothy Eneojo Itodo? Timothy?
You
Yeah.
can unmute Timothy.
Okay, governance, my understanding of governance is service to the people.
Nice.
Good service to the people, yes.
Okay. Anyone else? Anyone else?
There is Emmanuel David.
Okay, he's been raising his hand from the first question.
Okay. Okay.
Yes.
Susona Joshua.
Susona Joshua, please.
All right.
Susona Joshua.
I've asked you to unmute. Please go ahead.
All right. Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
My understanding of governance is the ability to manage political or any authority vested on an individual. So in the case of Nigeria, for instance, the ability to manage the vested authority on those people that are elected or conferred with powers to rule or govern. That's governance in my understanding. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that. All right, so you're right in your definitions. And of course, I will always say governance is about monitoring and controlling decisions, as well as giving leadership and direction. So at the helms of affairs, if you're in governance, of course, you're going to be monitoring and controlling decisions, and you're going to be giving leadership and direction. So governance is at every level. It doesn't have to be at local. It doesn't have to be at the federal before it is seen as governance. No, at every level. You might even just be in a unit, in a ward, where you feel you're not doing anything. No, but as a ward head, you're able to give guidance, you're able to give some form of leadership. It's seen as governance. And so you should look at it that, okay, once you're in governance, how do you fund yourself? If, for instance, you're given an office, what runs your office? So those are the things that will lead us to understanding the role of tax in governance. So now let's look at a brief history of how this emanated in Nigeria. From the pre-colonial days, if you remember when in history, when they told us, because we're not there, about how different cultures, different tribes, different ethnic groups were able to govern themselves. Some of them had their Oba, some of them Obi, some of them had emirs. We have the Jaja of Opobo, we have the Ohinois, we have the Atas, and many other names and titles we cannot all mention today. But they all had their own system of administration. And in that, you'll find out that some of them were imposing these taxes on farmers, on fishermen, on market women, all that. And so they started to collect these funds because what? there were a lot of wars that were occurring in those communities. And for them to protect themselves, they needed these funds. Some of them used these funds to build their walls. Some of them used it for provision of other amenities within their community. And it went a long way. And so you would understand and also agree with me that over time, this has been part of our being, even before the Europeans came and colonized us and what have you. So we have a number of them. Some of them, like in Hausa land, they call it Kudin Kasa, is a form of agricultural tax on utilization of the land, which is equal to what we call the ground rent. Now, we can't say ground rent is a form of tax, but it is a source of income for the government because it is levied on individuals who own lands. As you all know, land is owned by government, in quote, eventually. But of course, people own those lands also. And so you get your CFO, which is tenured and which you pay to government for you to utilize that land and all that. We have the one that was levied on cattle owners. We have the one in Yoruba land that they call Ishakole. There was Oori and so many others. So these were all things that government, or rather leaders, thought were their sources of income, and so they imposed it. Now, upon the establishment of a British colony in Lagos and the subsequent amalgamation of Nigeria, there were certain proclamations made by the colonialists which resonated to bringing in some of these taxes and trying to formalize them. We have the Native Law Ordinance, which was applicable in the Western Nigeria. We have the Non-Native Protectorate Tax Ordinance of 1931, which was amended in 1939. We have certain other proclamations from even the 1914 laws. Now, these were all later coined into different types of taxes, of which we have the company's income tax, which came into being in 1961. Also, the Income Tax Management Act of 1961, the personal income tax, now repealed the old income tax management and brought it to Personal Income Tax Act of 2004. We have the company's income tax that was also amended for 2004 respectively. And so it resonates to up to what we have today, where we have the Nigerian Nigerian Tax Act as it is now, and then the Revenue Establishment Act, and then the Joint Tax Act and all that, which are all supposed to come up and take effect from 1st of January. So generally, you would know that these taxes, every government comes and they will come up with one amendment or the other to suit what they need. Because if, for instance, you were able to generate 15 trillion in a year, it doesn't mean that next year you must remain there. No. People have done businesses, things have changed, the budget must also change. A lot of things change. How do you fund the budget? So these taxes have to be either amended or you go after more taxpayers. You have all other different methods of ensuring that people pay these taxes so that you're able to meet up with your revenue needs. Now, the objective the government is able to raise funds from the taxes. As you know, in Nigeria today, the oil money is not as it used to be, but the taxes have been the constant means of raising revenue for government. And so that is why you would see that a lot of attention is given to tax collection. Am I audible?
Yes,
Am I
sir, you
audible?
are. We can hear you.
Okay, so I don't know. Do I have anybody who has anything, any of the participants who has something to say? Is there anything I've said that you're not too clear with? Anyone? All right, sir. Ambassador Stanley.
Okay.
Ambassador
Go ahead,
Stanley.
sir.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you for this session.
Thank you.
Yeah, so I don't know whether my name is Stanley
Yes, sir.
Okerafo from NNPP. I don't know whether at some point you're going to address this, but I'm just curious because I've heard a lot about this in recent times.
Yes.
And one is a funny definition, but more technical. And the funny definition actually is that tax is money collected from the poor to finance the greed and the fun and of the rich. I would like to get your views on that, especially looking at some countries of the world. Then, of course, the very more serious one, the more serious issue then would also be the issue of tax justice. Recently, I've been hearing this a lot. I would really like to get your views on this, sir. Thank you very much.
Right. So I will want us to have a brief discussion on this. I will ask you a question or one or two questions. So like do you have good knowledge of personal income tax in Nigeria?
Yes, I do. I pay it.
And so you agree with me that it is graded, that at a particular level you pay a particular percent, and at another level you pay another percentage, and like that it's graded. I don't know if you're aware of that.
I'm aware of that, sir.
Good. So to speak to your question, that tax is taken from the poor to fund the rich, I think we might be having a mix-up here, because if the tax law itself takes a lower percentage from the poor, I don't think it makes sense for us to say it is collected from the poor to fund the rich. Now, another thing I will tell you is that in a typical scenario in Nigeria, for instance, it is companies, mostly blue chip companies, that pay their taxes, that bring about the major income or revenue for the government. Now, if we look at it from that angle, are those companies poor?
Okay, sir. Let's flip it this other way also. I mean, like I said that I wasn't mind. I really want to get your view. But again, so some sort of thought will also argue that a big man, for example, who understands the tax laws will buy things he needs, not in his name. Of course, he'll buy it through his company. That way, he evades tax legally. The poor might not have that opportunity. I mean, if you don't have a company, how can you buy goods from companies? And I'm by no means justifying this, clearly this is, so that's why you're the expert in this field. It will be good to see your views on this. Yes, it's great that I pay income tax. And sometimes I even feel my income tax based on my salary is way too high. But somebody again will argue that
you earn a lot.
you earn it, pay it. But I don't know.
All right, thank you very much. I just wanted us to.
I wouldn't say that, sir, but that's the reality. I mean, I feel it's too high for me. Yeah.
Yeah, fine. Thank you very much. I really appreciate your engagement. Now, it brings me to the next objective that I was about to discuss about, which is redistribution of income and wealth. So if you look at it, the first doctrine that taxation could be based on is the ability to pay. So that the burden of taxation ought to be heavier for rich men than for the poor. This is as it is, as it's supposed to be. And that's why we have a progressive type of rate. Yes, I understand the fact that VAT is flat. VAT is a flat rate. But if you now look at those that are supposed to remit VAT, the remittance of VAT is still based on the turnover of those smaller companies. Our tax laws agree that those small companies that are doing below 25 million should not even pay any of these taxes. So if you look at it from that angle, I would say that our tax laws are becoming more friendly. Now, maybe if you look at also some tips from the new tax bill, where even the personal income tax states that for those that earn below 800,000, they will not be taxed. It's already a concern because, for instance, if personal income tax is to be collected by states and states rely on that, how many people in the state actually earn more than 800K? Which means the states have to worry about how to make these monies. Well, that's not for us to think about, but I will tell you that in principle, tax is a means of redistribution of income because you take, for instance, companies like Glow, MTN, Dangote Cement, Dangote Group, all these companies all pay taxes to Nigeria. But when Nigeria is funding its military to defend its territory, it doesn't state that it is defending it against only the rich. It's defending it against everybody. And so it's a form of redistribution of income and wealth. It also gives some leverage to some other climes. Like TED Fund. TED Fund is being funded by taxpayers. And if TED Fund is funded, they are able to fund education, educational institutions with infrastructure and what have you. And so it is something that actually has a ripple effect in the society, but you need to look in between the lines to actually understand some of these things. It is also a means of managing the economy, whereby certain objectives of government are done in order to ensure that certain items are not used, is to regulate the use of certain items, like excise duty on things like alcohol, some other items like cigarettes. In some climes, you have what they call luxury tax, where if you are bringing in like a yacht or you have a private jet, you are being taxed. You are being levied. And it's not because they don't want you to have it, but because they want you to feel discouraged in having it. So it must be very, very, very necessary before you have it. So these are all objectives of tax. Harmonization of the economic objectives, whereby you harmonize based on treaties that have been entered into by member states of a community like the ECOWAS and AU and all that. And so that brings us to the next topic or the next subject of principles of taxation. Now, we're basing our thoughts on an old philosopher. But all these things, these principles that this guy spoke about are still very, very applicable in today's world. It says tax should be equitable. There should be equity in tax. If you look at it, with all these reforms in our tax laws, you would see that, yes, everybody is taxable, but some people are exempted so that they don't feel the burden of tax. So you would also understand the fact that companies that have turnover of above 100 million are taxed at a different rate from those that have between 25 to 100. So you would also know that along the line, this new tax reforms has actually increased the threshold. I'm not too certain, but I'm sure it's between 50 and 100. For small businesses, is 50, and so they will be on zero rate, which means they don't need to buy and they don't need to pay their taxes. We have certainty. We have its certainty on our taxes. Everybody is aware that VAT is 7.5. You are certain. Everybody is aware that if you are to pay your CIT, there's a rate for companies' income tax. And so there's certainty. You know that, okay, this tax liability, I'm going to FRS to pay it. When we look at convenience, we would also agree that they have automated some of these taxes. And you are able to pay for those that have companies through a platform. I think FRS calls their own Tax Pro Max. In Lagos State, they have automated their own system too. And people are able to use the platform to pay for their taxes from the comfort of their offices and homes. It calls for administrative efficiency, there's transparency, then there's simplicity. people understand what they are expected to pay. In as much as Nigerians always will tell you, we don't even know what is happening with taxes, we don't understand. That's why we have tax consultants. There are tax consultants that do these things for businesses so that they're able to bridge the gap, the knowledge gap, and also assist them in doing their payments. Then it is productive. Our taxes are productive. If I think the cost of collection that they give, there's customs, they have their own cost of collection at about 7%. FRS has a cost of collection of about 4%. So whatever they collect, the government will give them 4% as their running cost, as something like their administrative costs. And so you would also look at it that there's flexibility and stability, because I remember when they started Finance Act, there was Finance Act 2019. It did not work out very well. They introduced 2020, 2021, there was 2023. Before this new tax reform came about by the current administration, and we can see the progression. There's so much on the internet going on. I think KPMG, they've summarized the clause. Anderson Tax, they've summarized it. If you just go online, you'll find some of these reforms, like the Stamp Duty Act. They've told Nigerians a lot about the Stamp Duties Act, the company's income tax, the personal income tax, a lot of amendments, even withholding tax. They've all done those amendments, and it is all because they want to stimulate the economy and ensure that there is a level playing ground for businesses, and also the government is able to still raise something from the taxes. Now we have different types of taxes. We have the proportional, we have the progressive, we have the regressive. For the proportional, it's at a flat rate. So if I earn 100,000, if you charge me 10% of 100,000, it's just 1,000. Now, if I earn 2 million and you slam me 10%, it's a lot more. And so it now makes it easy for us to explain the concept of redistribution of income. Those that have more will pay more, and those that earn less will pay less. Then we can also look at the progressive tax, like the personal income tax, where we look at it that those that earn below 300 from the old act, below 300 at 7%, the next 300 at 11%, and then it's graded like that as your income increases. Now, they have increased the threshold to 800,000, and which means a lot of people would not be paying that personal income tax if they earn below that 800,000. And so it is all in a bid to ensure that people don't feel burdened by taxes because their incomes are low. The legislation does not allow for government to impose taxes on just anybody. Then the last type is a regressive type, but it's not commonly used because it says that you take more taxes from the low earners and then less taxes from the high earners. This has never been a practice in any way I know. Then we also have the direct and indirect taxes, whereby some of these taxes are slammed directly at the taxpayer, like the personal income tax, companies income tax. We used to have what we call capital gains tax, which speaks to gains on items you sell. If you have a capital item, for instance, you have a land and you sell it, you will take out the costs of purchasing the land. You will take out the cost of any other improvement you've done on the land. If you had to pay for agency for selling the land, you take it out. Whatever is left, the government is entitled, I will use the word entitled because it's a tax, to 10% of that amount. Same thing if you have maybe foreign currency, which you decide to change after a long time, and then at that time the exchange rate has gone up. It is expected that the government levies you 10% on that. Well, that's a story for another day, because I'm sure a lot of us will be frowning at it because, were you there when I bought it? What's your business with my... Well, it's a law and we can't go against the law. We have other tertiary education tax, which is also direct on the business, petroleum taxes on the business, and then we have the indirect ones, where we have the value added tax, we have excise duties and customs duties, which are levied on products. So like VAT, when you buy Coca-Cola, nobody will tell you have paid VAT. But if you buy Coke from a malam on the roadside, the guy that makes Indomie or the woman that sells food under the bridge, she'll sell it to you maybe 200 naira. But it might not be cold. You'll be frowning at yourself. You'll be belching like anything. But then, if you stroll through Kilimanjaro or Chicken Republic and you see that chilled Coke and they tell you it's 800 naira, there's value added. And so you should pay for the value. And that's why there's value added tax. So those are all indirect taxes, because at the time you're paying it, you don't even feel it. You're like, I beg, give me that cold one. But you have paid an additional tax on it. Now, for those of us who are really going to be in governance, you need to understand the tripod of taxation. And the tripod of taxation speaks to the tax policies. What are those things those policies that will be used in order for people to be comfortable in taking care of in payment of their taxes? Now we can look at tax policies. There are a lot of policies that the government comes up with, like the introduction of self-assessment scheme. Federal government just said, people don't pay their taxes. They are running away from us. Okay. We will not come after you. You come and tell us what you have earned and what you are going to pay. It is later on that audit can follow. But for now, they will tell you, no, just come and pay your tax. And then you pay your tax. As you pay your tax, nobody is going to disturb you. If you are sure you have paid the right thing, everything goes. But of course, for them to be able to be sure, is a thing of trust. And so they will come, of course, later on with tax audits on your business, just to be sure that what you have done. So those are different ways of ensuring that people come closer. So in everything you do in governance, even while you're trying to bring in taxes, certain policies should guide your thinking, or your thinking. There's some kind of thinking that should guide how you even impose policies on your people. Because if you make it as friendly as possible, more people will pay. But the moment you make tax rigid and less friendly, a lot of people run away from you. So there are reasons why you need to come up with policies that will bring people closer to the tax nets. Now, we also have, apart from the tax policies, we have the tax laws. Every tax is backed by the law. Just as you have the personal income tax of 2004, companies income tax, capital gain tax, and VAT of 2004, the same thing applies to education tax, the stamp duties, and the most recent hydrocarbon of 2021, which have all been repealed by the new tax laws of 2025. It was signed by the president on June 26th and is supposed to take effect 1st of January. For this cohort, I'm not sure I will be able to, I will answer questions if there are questions around that area, but I will not expect that we'll go through it in detail as it's supposed to be. So, but by probably the next cohort, we'll be able to come up with a new note. We'll have to revise our notes so that it resonates to the current laws. But as it is now, we're going to work with this for just basically having the knowledge of what tax should do for us in governance. Then we also have the third tripod, the third leg of the tripod, which is tax administration. Who collects what? We know that we have 3 levels: at the state, at the local level, and at the federal level. At the federal level, we have the Federal Inland Revenue Service, which is backed by the law also. We have the Federal Inland Revenue Establishment Act, 2007, which has been repealed by this new Nigerian Revenue Service Act, Establishment Act. So FIRS will cease to bear that name, but by 1st of January, they will be seen as Nigerian Revenue Service. Now, every state has its own internal revenue service. And that is why I think sometimes we hear different versions of things. They'll tell you what are the state's governors doing. Now, it means that at the state level, there are taxes that are supposed to be collected. The personal income tax for your civil servants, for your businesses, it's at the state level they're expected to pay. While for local government, they also have their own type of taxes, which is maybe market stall tax. I think they have all these guys that stand on the road for adverts on your car, all that. So for those in Abuja, you know that you see these AMAC boys. Those are all touts, which the new tax laws are trying to also modernize. So from what I understand is we'll stop to see those touts, less of those touts, as the law now gives powers to the new revenue service to partner with states and local governments to assist them in collection. So there will be a lot of changes in our tax space, which will be seeing some changes. I'm sure there will be workshops and TV programs and radio programs for sensitization so that people know what the new law is saying and what we should expect. But I will encourage each and every one of us to be able to browse through to get one or two information about these new tax laws, because it's going to be of very great benefit to us all, especially as we run within the political space. Lastly, we're going to look at the sources of Nigerian tax laws. You remember when I was speaking about the history of our of taxes, we went as far back as talking about the traditional and the customer native laws and customs, which resonates to become part of what we know today as our tax laws. We have the statute laws, which I have mentioned before, for the Income Tax Act, the Companies Income Tax Act, and all that. There are case laws. There are certain laws that the Supreme Court or the Appeal Court or Superior Courts would take. And if it is on principles of tax, it can become a form of backing for the creation of for a law. We also have circulars issued by the Inland Revenue Services, either at the state or at the federal level. We have opinions of tax experts. We have budget and pronouncement of relevant ministries. And ultimately, we have Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. I don't know. At this point, I want to ask us if we have any questions before I try to round up so that we can have a wonderful evening. TGIF. Anybody? All right, Bolaji, go ahead. Hello, Bolaji Daniel. Any questions?
Bolaji, what do you have to say? Go ahead.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
That's very insightful so far. Actually getting more familiar with the taxation. But my question goes thus. It's related to the personal income taxation. Currently, there is actually a current, do I say, I don't know how to put it. There's this person who has been going online, who is actually more of a streamer who doesn't earn his money in Nigerian currency. And he has been like, he just got slammed of taxation of about 36 million naira. So my question right now is that, are we obliged to pay taxes earning from Nigeria? Or, I mean, if you're not earning from Nigeria, are you also obliged to pay taxes as well in Nigeria? So that's my question.
All right. Thank you very much for that.
Thank you, sir.
Now, as a resident of Nigeria. We even have in international taxation, we have what to call non-resident taxes. It is levied on individuals that live in Nigeria but are not Nigerians. They are expected to pay those taxes. Now, speaking on this person, tax is imposed on income earned in Nigeria and also income earned in Nigeria. So if you're a business registered under CAC in Nigeria, as far as your company is registered under CAC, you pay your tax to Nigeria. Now that is where the concept of double taxation will come in, because we have treaties. There are different treaties that we have with countries outside the other countries where we'll say, okay, if they have taxed you so amount in that country, come forward and tell us. Then we will now deduct it from what we are going to take from you. And that is how it is being practiced. Now, there is this argument about a man who lives in Nasarawa State. I don't know. Well, let's use, I can use Nasarawa State, I can use Lagos, where you have someone who works in Lagos but lives in Ogun State. And the law says that where you reside for more than 6 months is where you pay your tax. But his company, the company he works for, has its headquarters in Lagos. And Lagos State is collecting that personal income tax. So there's usually a point of reconciliation. That's where the Joint Tax Board comes into play, where states will come up with those kind of issues and they will be able to say, okay, this man, from your records, he lives in so place, but you have been paying to Lagos State. Lagos State, you have to refund Ogun State too. No. We also have somebody who works in a factory in Ogun State but lives in Lagos. They will do all those reconciliation at their own level. But the truth is, so far you're a company in Nigeria, you are expected to pay. If you are residing in Nigeria, if that money comes from space and it enters your bank, Otilo, the government has to collect it. So it is the person's business, so he can rant for all they care. But I'm sure the necessary authorities will follow him up and ensure that he pays that money that is due to him. Because what? He has earned it in Nigeria because he was living in Nigeria. I'll give you another example. Airlines. British Airways, for instance. Do you think British Airways will not pay taxes in Nigeria? They will. For those passengers that book their flight from Nigeria, the tax authority will get that schedule and ensure that they pay tax on those amounts that they have collected from Nigeria. So it goes like that. I hope that answers your question. Maybe I should listen to Odofin CG.
Okay, sir. Dolphin, go ahead and ask a question.
Okay, good evening, sir.
Good evening.
Thank you so much, sir. I live in Jos and I realize my tax is actually deducted from my co-insurance Lagos. I just got a better clarification with what you just mentioned. Sir, thank you so much, sir. So my first question is, do you think religious bodies are supposed to be paying tax in Nigeria? That's the first question. 2, sir, do you think the transparency of governors or from the federal states are actually being transparent in telling the masses how the tax actually is being spent? And also, on the third aspect of my question is, so unfortunately, you will see sometimes that maybe sometimes you hear in Kano said, no, they saw some people for carrying beer and they've actually Hisba or something like that. They've said, no, we don't want this. Okay, maybe in another state, they said, no, we don't want this, sir. You don't have to do this. And the whole of this money is on that individual's property is actually being destroyed, and the individual is still residing in that environment. So do you think this is actually good for our country as a nation when it comes to taxation, sir? Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, CG. Okay, so I would take it this way. I wouldn't want to speak on religious issues. They are sensitive. However, you know that in registering your business with CAC, you either register as a business, you can register as a charity organization. The law stipulates that those that register as a charity organization should not. And you agree with me that religious organizations are charity organizations. So I will leave it at that. However, we have cases where those religious organizations own certain businesses that are taxable. In my opinion, they should pay taxes on those incomes. I'll leave it at that. Now, for you, the second question, speaking about the seizing of items, is also very sensitive because it was a case raised even when the former governor of Rivers State was trying to say, why would some people be collecting their share of VAT when they don't allow the consumption of the item? Well, I think that's not for us to discuss. When we get to that opportunity, when we have that opportunity and we can take our positions to make some legislations, we can probably at that point decide what should be done. But at this point, I'm really not I'm not too free to speak about that. Now, thirdly, about transparency. Yes. Speaking about the transparency, like I mentioned in the beginning of my class, tax is not paid in return for anything. So I wonder why we're speaking about transparency. If today we have insurgents, we have insecurity, and we have to buy arms, should I now say because somebody is crying for good road on his streets, I should not buy arms? No, I will go after the arms. And that's why I will always say it, that the priority of the government is not necessarily the priority of the individuals. Because as a governor, as a president, you have a wider range you're covering. The individual is seeing from his own perception or from his community perception. But there are more things that are of priority to the government than what he's saying. So for me, I would say that every government has its own opportunity to showcase itself, but the citizens have the power to decide who rules over them. Thank you very much.
Okay,
Thank you
sir.
very much, sir.
Thank you.
That was a very important clarification. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Ernest Aundoaka, go ahead with your question.
Hello, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. My question is, sorry, let me apologize. I don't have a good voice. I have cut out.
It's okay. It's okay.
My question is, sir, will you throw more light on this pay as you earn tax? And then the second one is, you made mention of maybe tax money is a kind of redistribution of services. And you gave an instance of when people pay tax, even companies, and they are going to, maybe for security, they are funding the Nigerian army for security. They are also protected, not because of the amount they pay, and even the poor people enjoy the services. So my question is, in expatriate.
I'm with you.
Yes, it is. Let me say, I have clear evidence in some places where I've been to. They earn high, their security is top notch. The kind of houses they live in is different from. And then the allowance and a lot of services that they even get that are the detriment of Nigerian citizens working in that same company. I'll use Dangote as an example, where you have most of their workers as Indians and then some from Asian countries. So I want to know, how is their tax being generated or collected by the government even at local, state, and federal? And is there any criteria why they pay them more than Nigerian citizens? That's my question, sir.
Okay, thank you very much. I would look at it from two different angles. I will answer you concerning the personal income tax first. The law stipulates that first things first, that there's a consolidated relief allowance. There's a higher of 200,000 or 1% of gross income. And I'll say it again. Higher of 200,000 or 1% of gross income. If your gross income is of 1% is more than 200,000, they will take out the 200,000. Now, 20% is also taken out. Then, of course, you remember that you do pension contribution, you do housing contribution. The balance is what is chargeable to tax. That's for personal income tax. Now, the first 300,000 is charged at 7%. The next 300,000. So if we're looking at maybe 2 million now, we have taken out first 300. We'll charge it at 7%, which is 21,000. The next 300,000 will be charged at 11% personal income tax rate, which is 33,000. The next 500 will be charged at 15%. The next 500 at 19%. The next 1.6 million at 21%. I hope you can understand the grading as it is progressing. And over 3,200,000 is charged at 24%. Now, if you calculate all this, it amounts to about 400 and about 400,000, which will be taken out from that 2 million, which means your take home will be about 1.6. So it is graded as you earn. As you earn, it is graded. That is for personal income tax. Now, speaking about why expatriates earn higher. Well, as a HR person, there are obvious reasons. They have allowances, inconvenience allowances. They are leaving their country, they are coming to your country. They have an expertise that you do not have. There's something they're bringing to the table that is assumed that we don't have here. And it could be as little as their discipline. It could be as little as their doggedness. It could be as little as their loyalty. I would rather pay for that loyalty to have you work for me diligently than to pay you that amount and then you think that he's Dangote now, I beg, he has enough money, let him pay me. Now the government is able to pay to collect taxes from those people who are expatriates. Like I mentioned earlier, we have the non-resident taxes. That's under international tax. And there's always a way around it where they are able to calculate these taxes and they collect them at source from these individuals. That is if they came in legally. So I will not speak for those that come in illegally, but I'm saying for those that came into Nigeria through the normal immigration processes, definitely we are going to charge them their taxes, because at the point of return, there is definitely going to be one clearance or the other that we need from them, and they must show evidence of compliance with the tax laws. I don't know if that answers all the concerns, sir.
Very well, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for that, sir.
Thank you very much.
Otta Nelson, please ask a question. Thank you.
All right. Good evening, all. Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
Yes. Thank you so much for today's lecture. And you have much spoken about what I call them ascertainable income. What about unascertainable income? Example, someone bought a log of wood, have it inside his car, and then he's plying the road, and those boys which you described earlier are there taxing the person. How do they determine it? Where does tax start and where does tax end? If tax cannot be evidenced, is it still tax? For instance, I went to Onitsha to buy some, they call it American panel doors. I bought less than 400, but close to that 400. And we put it in a truck and we have to move from Anambra, Enugu to deliver it at Ebonyi State. And we are taxed, in quotes, without any receipt. The money we spent at a point, the driver had to give up and I had to pay from my pocket. And even when the driver was telling us the price of the transportation, he had to include those taxes that he's going to meet those boys. So if tax is not evidence, is this still tax? And to what extent, where does tax start and where does it end? And if one has a complaint, does the present existing law, which I've not checked, pardon me, does it have a remedy, a very quick remedy for the citizens? Thank you.
Thank you very much for that question. Now, my expertise might not reach to know what levies those people are charging you for on your log of wood. But I'm sure when I was speaking about sources of tax laws, I spoke about legislations that are passed at one point of the other. So I would tell you that they would not be on the road if they are not supposed to be there. But I would also want to tell you that it has been a concern ever since. It has been a huge concern. People have complained about this act of them coming in and just bamboozling you, collecting money. But I can tell you that in real calculation for tax, especially value-added tax, there's what we call the inputs and the outputs, VAT. Now, all those things are being added into the end product of that particular product. Now, when I mean by inputs, like the log of wood now, you are going to use it to make something. Now, they are probably going to tax you because you have degenerated the environment. Maybe there's a law against that. So they will tell you, hey, you must pay so amount for us to allow you to pass with it. Now, when they collect that, it is expected, if it is through a normal process, that they remit back to the states. Now, they can also be doing that on behalf of the local government where they are. That's why you can be in one local government area. By the time you cross into another, you start shouting, I just pay those guys. They'll tell you, don't know them. I don't sabi them. Now you I see, and now you I stop. You understand? So some of these taxes have been harmonized by the new tax law. This new tax law is expected to harmonize these collections. And like I mentioned earlier, I said some of these things, the law has given powers to the Nigerian Revenue Service where they can be able to assist and also administer these laws for these local and state governments. Now, concerning complaints, we have what we call the Tax Appeal Tribunal, of which even in this new law, they have created the tax ombuds. I think if I remember, yes, they said they don't call it ombudsman. They call it tax ombuds because of the gender sensitive people. They say, why should you call it ombudsman? So it is tax ombuds, where every form of complaint concerning taxes are taken to. Now, the Tax Appeal Tribunal also, under the Joint Tax Board now, is supposed to be like the court, the first level court, where you take your tax issues to, and then they will sit and pass a judgment between they will pass a judgment between yourself as an individual, as a company, alongside the tax authority you're filing against. And if you are not satisfied, you can actually go ahead to the higher courts of supreme powers. So everything is within the ambits of the law. And I can assure you that nobody will come on the road and tell you to bring money for carrying wood, except it's an armed robber. And in this case, it's not. So I can assure you that they are working within the laws, and it is just for the generation of this revenue. If you find yourself as a local government chairman or a state governor, I'm sure you will not stop them from doing their work, because those monies would help you do one or two things as a governor or as a local government chairman. Thank you very much.
Hey. Thank you, sir. We have one more hand. Rotimi Fafure.
Fafure.
Please go ahead with your question.
Okay, good evening.
Good evening.
Thank you. Thank you, sir, for your insightful session.
Thank you.
Like Mr. I think Atta talked about, I also experienced such a thing. But the idea for me is having paid prerequisite amount or tax or whatever it is on I think it's transportation. They have a name for it.
Yes.
I paid, obtained my necessary documents, and to my surprise, between states, if I move, I get them harass me, even when I show them the original documents as we are told to always carry with us. The point is the extra money these guys collect, they are not uniform. It depends on how you negotiate with them. Some will take 5,000 extra and they will name one document and you open series of it. I think I have about 46 pieces of those documents covering advert, environmental, whatever, state, local government, even Niger Delta, they also have a share of it. So I will be happy, like you said, if they actually implement this idea of removing all these tax from the road, because they actually make the double taxation, triple taxation. And that's my number one. Number two, I want to ask, should a government concentrate more on generating revenue through tax for governance purpose, or that it should actually harness our resources, like the case of Nigeria? We have mineral resources in abundance. Can we concentrate on tapping into these resources to generate more revenue to take care of our infrastructural deficits? Or should we just concentrate on this tax, especially in this agbero-ish way we collect this tax? Thank you, sir.
All right, Rotimi, thank you very much. I would want us to have a one-on-one with you. So now I would ask you, as the president of Nigeria, for instance,
yes, sir.
Which of the mineral resources would you harness to make up for your budget if you are running on a budget of about 70, 80 something trillion, if I can't remember. But then if you had to fund your government using any of the resources, how would you harness them? How would you do that? As a first line of
For me, I will look at, like, let me take the case of XVIII States, for instance, now.
Yes, sir.
In fact, when I got there and I hear they've changed the name to Ulewi or something like that, I used to fancy this idea of the fountain of knowledge.
Yes.
I want to think that while I was in Lagos, I used to talk about this knowledge thing, that especially in IT, we know that these days manufacturing takes decades before they produce billionaires. Yes. But these days, IT takes like 1 year to generate millionaires or even billionaires. Yes. For me, if I become the governor of XVIII State, I'll concentrate my effort in building this IT infrastructure. I don't know whether you understand what I'm saying.
How would you get the funds to build the IT infrastructure? As a governor, I hope you remember the fact that you have gone through a lot of campaigning, you have gone through a lot of spending. So you have taken over office and there is no money. How would you fund that?
Yes, sir. I still hear of how we go outside and meet people to get money from them. Some of this money are actually grants and there are cheap loans. In fact, longer moratorium, 1% interest rate. I could get all of those and even ask people in diaspora that are serious, that have money. I will bring them in. All I need to do is use technology to reduce the amount of corruption that is plaguing us. I know that corruption is our major problem. It is not the fact that we don't have money the way we used to talk about it. Even this tax that we're talking about, when they make it, they still steal it. That is why no infrastructure is around. For me, if I become the governor, I will look at these areas where our children that are knowledgeable in IT will even become expatriates. They'll be in XVIII State and be doing jobs outside. like some people are doing right now.
So
That's
how
what I
would
will
you
do, sir.
Okay, so how would you pay your teachers, your civil servants? Still from the borrowings? How are you intending to pay those
It's not
borrowings?
only the borrow. The borrowings are for investment. The investment will yield.
You see, Oga, in as much
Yes, sir.
as we have ideas about governance, we have our own personal ways of thinking. There are certain things you can't do away with. And taxation is one of them. If Nigeria was depending on natural resources alone, without any taxes, now that the oil prices are dwindling, how do you survive as a country?
Sir, can I ask one question?
I'm listening to you, sir.
When the colonizers came,
yes,
did they make more money using our resources or from tax? Did they
We're
get
not-
more money to develop their own country based on the tax they get from us, the citizens, or our resources that they took away?
You see, you are bringing me to a different topic because now you are speaking about people that came here to get resources from you. They came deliberately for it. Now
So
you
I will go deliberately for the resources, sir.
Okay.
I'll go deliberately for the resources.
I hope you understand the fact that anywhere you hear of insurgents in Nigeria, there's a mineral resource there. How do you fight that? How do you fight that insurgents? With deliberate movement? Okay, you need taxes. It is a
I'm not saying we don't need
taxes.
I'm saying that we need the resources more than these taxes that we're concentrating on.
Oga, calm
People are
down.
fighting over these
Oga, calm down.
Let's
Calm down. I will still tell you this. In as much as, yes, I agree with you. You are not wrong. You are not entirely wrong. And like you said, should we continue? Of course, we shouldn't continue. There are better ways of doing things. And you might be providing a very new solution to our problem in Nigeria. However, I will tell you that understanding this tax and taxation and collecting it for the right purposes, honestly, is our quick win. You see, when you find yourself in that position, I won't say it's out of desperation or out of your internal revenue chairman internal revenue, he is your first point of call at all times. Oh boy, how far? Oh boy, how far? You won't start saying you want to, okay, you're even going far, you want to go and collect loan. They will always ask you, what is the repayment like? When are you paying back? So some of these things we understand, of course, that new ideas come up every day. People think differently. However, we have to be very mindful of how we see it. Tax is virtually supposed to be there for us to ensure that people are being taken care of firsthand. If you know what a wage bill for Ekiti State, for instance, is, that tax and that debt you want to go for, you will not run there first. You will first of all balance yourself before you start thinking of other sources. Well, me and you have not found ourselves in that situation. So let's hope for the best, that by the time we find ourselves there, we'll think differently so that the citizens can enjoy tax-free life. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Let's take Samsudin Ibrahim Adamu. Please go ahead with your question. Samsudin, are you on the call?
Okay, it's Daniel. Okay, it's ready.
All right.
I think, good evening, sir.
Good evening.
Thank you very much for your presentation, sir. I think you've answered the question when you're answering the
question
for the previous person. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Daniel AC Ekenya. Daniel?
Go ahead and unmute, Mr.
Okay. Thank you very much. It's been a wonderful lecture. I learned quite a lot. I observed that the time, of course, wasn't sufficient for the extensivity of the lecture. Yes, but however, I gained quite some. But my question is twofold. One is, the lecture this evening is on taxation revenue generation. So my question is, how do these rich Arab nations, who primarily have just one resource we have in Nigeria, which is the crude oil. They live so well, and I believe they don't use taxes and revenue to terrorize their citizens, so to speak. Secondly, I want to also inquire, why is it that despite all the revenue we generate as a country, the resources we have as a country, we still go out there to take loans? Like most third world countries, we are so heavily indebted in loans, despite this abundance of wealth, human and natural. So I just wanted to have a clearer picture since you're in that revenue stream field. Is it that the
Sorry,
leakages
please.
are
Sorry.
greater?
Hold on, Daniel. Some shouldn't. Please, can you mute yourself? Some shouldn't. Dan Allah, mute
Yes,
yourself.
sir.
Mute yourself, please. We are hearing you. Thank you. All right, Daniel. Sorry for that.
Yes. Okay. Thank you very much, sir. So I believe my questions are taken.
Okay, so I think I picked them in between the distraction. But first things first, you spoke about Arab countries who have just one mineral resource and they are enjoying themselves. So, in my own understanding and in my own thinking, the first criteria I will give you is the fact that their population is not as large as Nigerian population. That's one. Number two, I don't remember them. Please, you can correct me. If they were colonized the way we were colonized, I'm sure those things are all factors that will lead us to understanding some things. Then thirdly, their system of administration is different from what we have here, in the sense that they run an oligarchy. Is a theocracy rather, not democracy. I don't think they go out for elections. It is a king, and the king rules. If he dies, the ruling family takes over. And so certain laws, when you take out certain laws, people must abide by it. And so I would also tell you for free that it is the immigrants that pay most of these taxes. You might not know, but businesses that go there to run their business, they pay through their nose. They pay through their nose. It's not, you shouldn't think that they don't also collect taxes. They do. Now, even if they also depend on their oil, I hope you know tourism is another means of income for these people. So you would be shocked to note that they have collected these loans in the past, but they have harnessed those resources and have used the proceeds to ensure that they pay back the loans and then they make their place better. They thrive more on tourism than you think they thrive on oil. I don't know if you get me. So I think you should look at it from that angle and not just slam it that if Kuwait or Qatar or who can do this, Nigeria must do it because we all have the same oil. Oga, even in the oil business, there are types of oil. The oil in Nigeria is different from the oil deposit in Benin Republic. So we can't also speak about we all have oil, we should have the same thing. No. So look at these factors that I've mentioned, and of course you can think of more and understand that sometimes some of these things are beyond just looking at oil as it is. Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you.
Hayab Moses, please go ahead with your question. Are you there? Hayab Moses.
Good evening, sir. Thank you for this
Right.
wonderful class.
Good evening.
Sorry to take a bit back to somebody who mentioned we have abundant resources. When you have to talk about abundant resources, you have to consider our population. I think what we should be talking about is how can government actually harness our resources? I am in Plateau. One of the things I observed lately is the government of Plateau, or less the Nigerian government, haven't been able to manage or harness resources. It is individuals who go to mine randomly, and there's no government involvement in it. So our challenge is not to talk about we need taxations. We should talk about our countries giving rooms for more industry so that we can have more rooms to generate more tax, because you can't run a system. There's nothing like enough money or enough minerals to run a system. So I wanted to just make a contribution.
Thank you very much, Haya Moses. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, sir.
So we'll take the last one. Another one. Victor. Okay.
Ambassador Stanley.
He's coming for
Thank
the
you so
second
much,
time.
sir, for your time.
Okay. All right.
I'm back, sir. Well done, sir. The network actually threw me in and out.
Okay.
So, sir, you've referred severally to the new tax, and as an expert, sir, I would like to hear your views on how this new tax law will help in promoting tax justice in Nigeria. Because that's one. And two, also, I also like you to, if you were in a place to advise the government, we've seen kickbacks from some quarters, including state governments, who are opposed to some of the components, some of the aspects of the tax law for obvious reasons. What advice will you give to government to navigate these hurdles, as it were? And finally, sir.
Oh, God. Okay. Oh, sorry.
To tax more, right, sir?
Right.
Or to look for other sources of revenue generation, including tourism you talked about. Which would you pander towards? Thank you very much.
Okay. So threefold. So first things first, I will tell you of my own opinion. The new tax law is actually a friendly tax law. It's a tax law that has brought a very fair scenario to the tax and tax environment. I can assure you also that until we start experiencing it, we should not throw it out and think it is bad. It is only now going to lead us to the other question as to harnessing other resources. I mentioned earlier where I told you that the states would have to think of alternatives of getting these taxes or this revenue, because some of these laws, the new tax law, has made the states now become not a full participant in this thing. Yes, the federal might is still going to share what they collect at the federal level with the 3 tiers of government, but at the state level, they will have to think twice to ensure that they are able to raise other sources of income, because now the personal income tax rate has been increased to it has increased from 800,000, from 200,000 to 300,000 to 800,000. So it is after the 800,000 that you can start taxing that individual. Now, for a state that used to collect maybe, let's say, 2 billion, which was basically from the salaries of its state's workers, how would they be able to make that 2 billion? It means that they must think of other ways. Take, for example, a state like Zamfara. There's a lot of gold mine there. Someone mentioned that there are individuals that go to run those mines. I stand to disagree with you, because in Nigeria, there are certain things that run that until you find out, you won't know that it is a crime for you to actually export any mineral resource without government. We have a NEITI, Nigerian Extractive Initiative and Transparency in ABI, Nigerian Industrial and Extractive Transparency Initiative, or something like that. It's actually supposed to be the one that accounts for the non-oil deposits in Nigeria. And I can assure you that they have been making money. We have the NEPC, Export Promotion Council, Nigeria Export Promotion Council, they raise money. Oh. And these people that go to mine, don't think that they just go there. Oh. Yes, we have illegal miners. But if they are caught, you'll be shocked what they will be slammed with. And sometimes you think he's an illegal miner, but he's going with somebody's license to do it. So it might not be him. But so there are other ways that I believe that the government can actually make ways to raise money that will be an addition to taxes. Now, I will also disabuse your mind from thinking that tax is the mainstay. Now, if I delve into public finance, I would be telling you that even fines that road safety will slam on you is part of income of government. The excise duty comes to government. We have payments for sale of national assets. They all come to government as sources of income to the government. So yes, tax on a scale of 100 will take 80%. But these other sources are there constantly to ensure that these monies will be maintained and will continue coming. So for me, I know that Nigeria is blessed and Nigeria can do better. It is only a government that has the right and goodwill that will be able to meet up. So I think with the good willpower, political will, we can actually harness other sources of income for the government, and Nigeria will do better. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir. We are going to be taking the last question from Victor. Mr. Victor, please go ahead.
Okay, thank you very much for the lecture. I appreciate so much, sir. Mine is not really much of a question. I just wanted to contribute to the conversation that was earlier raised by the other student who talked about Nigeria to be as very minerally rich economy or nation. I want to say that somebody also contributed about the population of Nigeria already, that when you compare Nigeria to the Arab nations, whose nations are like countries, population is like between 2 million to about 20 million people, and you're comparing Nigeria at this present time, that is 337.5 million by United Nations statistics. You should know that Nigeria is now oil, mineral resource poor. Because when you divide the quota that we produce per day include oil, you should know that we do about 1.2 to 1.4. Recently, we got 1.8, which is not a consistent ratio. And then you multiply that, you divide that with the population of Nigeria. You should know how much crude oil comes to per person as per income. Then you do that again with Saudi Arabia that produce about 6-point-something million barrels per day. So you should see where they get the money from. That they got a whole lot of money because their population is very small compared to the large quota that they produce per day. And that is why this lecture is so enlightening, because Nigeria have to do more. And Nigerians also have to be enlightened more that we are not as rich as we think. Because sometimes when we throw the figures out, if they just share the oil money, everybody will be rich. Sometimes it's absurd, that is unrealistic. That if you divide the oil money as it is now and everybody gets a quarter of it, it will not be up to $20 per person. And that's why I just want to contribute. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you very much for that contribution. I truly appreciate. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Somebody just dropped, according to United Nations, population of Nigeria is 375 million. Okay, will be. Okay, we'll 375. Okay. All right. Thank you very much. On this note, I want to conclude by saying that it is pertinent to note that taxes are collected in order for government to have adequate funds to run affairs of the country or states, as the case may be. Now, tax must be involved in everything we do as much as we're in governance. As such, in governance, we must know that tax is of utmost importance and must be collected. It should also be noted that payment of tax is a constitutional duty of every citizen, and everyone should abide by this. And as I will always end my lecture, give unto Caesar what is for Caesar, and unto God what is for God. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir. That was really enlightening. We really appreciate you for your time and for your knowledge. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Cohort 18, you will be having your last set of classes by next week. So I hope you are excited about what you have learned so far. So after this weekend, we have one more weekend before graduation. And I see that some of us are still leaving our Zoom names as Honey Mix and a group of random numbers. Please note that attendance is automatically being taken, not from the chat, but from your Zoom login. So please change the name to the name you want to see on your certificate. Please change the name to what you want to see on your certificate. Thank you very much, and see you tomorrow. Good night, everyone.